Everyone, kia ora koutou. I'll kick off with our prayer in Karakia. Me ino tātou, e te atua, tēnei au, tēnei mātou, e mema kua po te hapore o Whanganui, arahina i a mātou, ki te whakatau, nā whakataunga pai, mō te rohi, mō nā tangata katoa, kia piki, ai te ora o te hapori, mi nā iwi katoa o Whanganui, homi e hui taiki e. Let us pray, dear God, here I am, here we are, your elected members of Whanganui. Guide us to make good decisions for the district, for all people to uplift the community, and all peoples of Whanganui bring forth unity. It is done. And I guess it's on that last point. I just applaud all of you for what was a significant day yesterday, for both the conduct and the level and the quality of the debate, and the quality of the discussion. And I forwarded a note yesterday from, I'll just dig it out. It's been quite a few emails since yesterday, fair to say. But if I can find it quickly, from Stephen Hill, who's from Election NZ. And this is, and I've sent it to you, but this is for the public as well. So he said, "Good work. This was definitely one of the better discussions I've heard on Māori wards. No doubt helped by the work you've done prior." And the word "you've done prior," I would suggest, is not just us, but it's the council officers and the participation of others in our community as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge yesterday as well. So we are reconvening yesterday's meeting, and we don't have any apologies. We do have lateness from Councillor Kate Joblin, and she's
So next we have a late item.
Oh, and we have so also a motion to receive the late item, that the council considers the following late items: land acquisition, noting that this item was not on the agenda because it was not finalised at the time the agenda was published, and that the report cannot wait until a subsequent meeting because the matter is time sensitive. It's in the public excluded. Yeah. So, but it's bringing it to this council meeting.
I'll move.
Okay, move and seconder. So all those in favour? Aye. All those against? Carried. Right. So we move on to, I do also want to note that we've had the withdrawal of item 8.6, adoption of council annual report for year ended 30 June 2023. So we'll be covering this off in an extraordinary meeting. So. Okay, so yeah, I asked David to comment on this one.
Through you, Your Worship, just by way of explanation, we had a phone call from the auditor this morning. They've been working through until about 3 o'clock yesterday or this morning, trying to complete their sign-off of the annual report, and they have requested a little bit more time because some of the checks that we've been doing on our 3 warders' performance measures need a bit more scrutiny just to make sure that they're accurate. They don't want to rush it, so they've asked if they could have a couple more days. So that's the explanation as to why it's been withdrawn from the agenda this morning.
All right, thank you. So the next item is item 7.1 and 7.2, confirmation of minutes, from 5 July 2023. Do we have a mover, Councillor Rob, and seconder, Councillor Peter? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 7.2, confirmation minutes 11 July 2023. Over mover, Deputy Mayor Helen, and a seconder, Councillor Charlotte. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, so item 8.3 is approval for funding for community-led projects, and I think, do we have Mike Firma for that, or are you going to, Chief Executive David Langford will speak to that?
Through your worship, so this report, well, first of all, I'm speaking to this because Mr. Fermor is on annual leave on a cruise. Not that I'm jealous or anything. So through your worship, I'll introduce this report on his behalf. At a recent Aspirations and Future Projects Committee, there was a request for officers to go away and consider a mechanism by which that committee could have some delegation of authority to grant relatively small funding requests for projects to get them going at an accelerated rate compared to making them wait for the full long-term plan process. We've brought this report to the full council meeting because the committee doesn't have the delegations to grant itself delegations. That needs to come from council. And there are options for you outlined in the report. You can give the committee some delegation to approve those funding requests. However, officers' advice is that you do not. There are already multiple pathways for community groups to come and get funding, either through either through the LTP annual plan process or through the community grant funding processes that already exist, or if there's a particularly compelling case for something, a report directly to council can be made at any time for approval for unbudgeted expenditure. The concern from officers, if you create another funding pathway that shortcuts or circumvents the ones you've already got, and you do it without kind of due consideration, you could be creating a first come, first served kind of process that effectively delivers some inequities for those people that have already been declined the oversubscribed community grant funding and other funding opportunities that you have. So officers' advice is that you don't, but the choice is yours. Happy to take questions.
Deputy Mayor Helen Craig.
Yeah, thank you. Projects that the community might want to undertake, and they need council support in some way, but may not be direct financial support, like a grant of 5,000, but maybe need some help with getting access to some land or who knows what. What are they being told at the moment?
So, through your worship, if I paraphrase that slightly and then answer, community groups that are coming with requests for benefits in kind rather than financial contributions, those are being assessed by officers on a case-by-case basis. If we're able to accommodate those within our delegations of authority and we believe that there's sensible alignment to council's business, then we would. More complicated ones or anything that's outside of our delegations, we'd probably bring a report to council. As a general rule of thumb, if we don't have delegation to say yes to something as officers, then I don't believe we have delegation to say no to it either, and it's a duty on us to inform council so that you can make the decision.
Thank you. So they're not being told to go away and come back next year, sort of thing?
If we think that that's the most appropriate way because there's an existing pathway for them to get a decision from council, then we may do that rather than bringing a bespoke report for that particular matter out of cycle.
Thank you. And if I had a project, community project, that I now want funding for, that's not basically a social grant, which usually goes to a community grant fund, what's happening what are they being told about that at the moment? Do I fill out the form and do I get assessed in any way, or what's the pathway?
So the pathway is that they would be directed to fill out the form that's online, and then officers would translate the information they provide into a point of entry business case, and then put it forward for the long-term planning process. At this point, we believe we've received all of the potential projects that the community wants to put forward for the LTP. We've been promoting the process, and officers have been giving advice and guidance to anyone that comes forward with an idea. Whilst there's a cut-off for the LTP, because at some point very, very soon we need to finalise the draft budget so that we can present them to you, that process is an ongoing process in perpetuity, because there will be future annual plans and LTPs, and we want the community to be able to drip feed their ideas into the council as they go, so that we don't have this surge of hundreds of business cases needing to be written at the next long-term plan.
I think on the website it said the close-off date for those submissions was something like the 31st of August. We're well past that, so have we changed that messaging on our website?
Through you, Your Worship, I would need to just go and double check that, but we'll make sure it's up to date.
Yep. And if somebody doesn't make it for this LTP, theoretically they have to wait another year before they're going to, well, they're not going to get any funding till the 1st of July 2025.
Through you, Your Worship, if you mean if they're unsuccessful through this round of funding, then yes, that would be the next earliest opportunity, albeit you may want to consider giving advice to the community group as to why their funding application was declined. If it's for simple affordability reasons, then no harm in encouraging them to reapply, but if they were declined because their project is misaligned to the council's strategy and vision, then there's probably not much point in them reapplying, because it would likely fail to get funding the second time round anyway for the same reason.
Oh yeah, I was more thinking of, you know, people come up with ideas all the time, right? They come up with projects, and I think we've kicked up a new, people now suddenly realise, oh, we can maybe, you know, we have an avenue for getting some funding and doing a project. So I think we're going to see that continue. So I guess tomorrow I could have, not tomorrow, let's say in a couple of months, I could have an idea, want to bring it through council. We haven't got any mechanism. They're basically going to have to wait to know if they've got a live project to the 1st of July 2025. Is that what we're looking at?
So through Your Worship, almost but not quite, as I said in my introduction, one of the avenues is that if there's a compelling or urgent proposition presented to officers through that mechanism, then we can always bring a one-off report to council out of cycle. That mechanism always exists. But I suppose my more substantive answer to you is yes, you're right, and for good reason. The council puts together long-term plans because there is a need for discipline with public spending and structure, so that we don't have ad hocery constantly moving the rates requirement, pushing us further into debt as we make isolated funding decisions. The long-term planning process is about seeing everything all at once and then making prioritization calls about what you do and what you do not fund. And that drip feeding of decision making disrupts that process, and it weakens your decisions because you aren't able to take into account the full impacts of the decisions in isolation from each other. You have to look at it as a package deal, which is the whole purpose of the long-term planning process.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to hold everybody up, but the process, I don't disagree with anything you're saying there, but with the way the annual plan works, you know, you're calling for projects and there's this very long tail of decision making. We have some other areas, like for the basic community grants, or for the social sector, you know, once a year, all the grant applications are assessed and they've got an answer within, you know, a month. We have creative communities, which again, they have a grant fund and they can apply and they know within a month, and you know, that one actually happens a couple of times a year. Going through the LTP or the annual plan or LTP process, there's this very long tail because of the way we make decisions. So it's not ideal. So would there be an advantage for us to, at this LTP coming up, put a block of funding aside, even if it was 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever it might be, that would be available to distribute once a year, rather than us going through this sort of process?
Yes. Through you, Your Worship, yes, and that's one of the areas that officers would advise you to look at. As we're preparing the draft budgets at the moment, we are looking at options we can put forward to you to consider, excuse me, relating to both the community grants funding in terms of its scope and the amount of money you set aside, because we think that's a more appropriate avenue, is use the existing funding mechanisms you've got, but then maybe boost the budget that's available because they're consistently oversubscribed. And through this process, we've also unlocked a little bit of latent aspiration from the community, so you're getting more requests than normal. A lot of those requests fall in line with being OPEX related funding. They're typically been requests for some staff members or doing some work that really by by accounting standards you can't capitalize, so it ought to be operating grant funding that they're asking for. Increase the pot of money you've got available for that is one way to maintain that oversight and prudence and discipline around budget setting, but be more responsive to the community.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Michael.
Thank you. With regards to industry best practice for EPMOs of companies our size, would you say that it is best practice to decentralize decision making down to a lower tier for seed funding for project capitalization?
What?
Makes sense to me.
Through you, Worship, I'm being very cautious about how I answer that question. I'm not sure you could define best practice around that. A lot of it will probably vary by industry sector, risk profile, and local government is inherently different to the private commercial sector, albeit we would occasionally benefit from some of their process and commercial driven rigor. Really, the decentralization of decision making, though, relies on having a strong guiding strategy or vision or something to draw line of sight to allow decision making on a consistent and repeatable basis. And at this point in time, I don't believe our organisation is there yet. We may be soon once we've completed the vision for Whanganui work and we've put some more structure in place. But then also there's that governance oversight role around making sure that key decisions sit at this table and giving the community the opportunity to come and have their voice heard by their elected officials rather than the management team.
Fair response, thank you.
Councillor Glenda.
Thank you. Option 2, about why does it have to be unbudgeted expenditure? Is that because it's out of the process? Can it not be attributed to the budget?
Through your worship, effectively yes. The answer is because between now and approving the long-term plan, anything that's not already in the annual plan budget is by its nature unbudgeted. Once you get to the long-term plan, then you could choose to make it budgeted expenditure by creating a pot of funding for the committee. But again, you're back to creating that additional funding route that competes with the existing funding pots, and officers' advice would be, rather than creating a new pot of money, supplement what you've already got and stick with those structured processes that are already well established.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rob.
Thank you. One of my concerns is that the terms of reference for the Aspirations and Projects Committee clearly talk about capital projects. And what we've seen come through so far, David, is quite a lot of not community projects, but really grants. And we're getting such things as subsidising the wages of a caretaker and those sorts of things. So at what stage can those be diverted? Because it seems like they need an answer pretty soon, and I haven't had any indication that they've been given any answer. So can you just address that?
So, through your worship, officers have been a little bit conservative, I suppose, in terms of not wanting to be a filter for the community. That said, we have held back a couple of requests that have come through the system that are very overtly operating grant funding requests, requests for a staff member's wages, and we're actively redirecting them towards the community grant funding processes that council already has. The other thing we're doing is making note of those kind of requests so that we can try and get a gauge on, if you were to increase the community grant funding pot of money available, what would be a sensible increment to increase it by that would meet the needs that's coming from the community, while still hopefully being relatively affordable from a rates point of view. That all said, some of the aspirations and the ideas that you've had presented to that committee do kind of err towards being a little bit of operating funding and a little bit of capital. Rather than making a judgment call on that and saying no and denying the community the opportunity to speak to you, officers' view is it's probably more in the spirit of our local democracy team to allow them to come and speak to you.
Another question is, if a group is making an application for a project and can't fit into the, say, for instance, what we're considering at this point in time, if they reapply again the next year, what's that entail? Because a long-term plan, in my mind, is basically a 3-year plan. Does that mean there has to be an amendment to the plan, and it's quite a rigmarole to actually do that?
So, excuse me, through you, Your Worship, there's a few things at play here. So, first of all, most of the requests that we've received are for funding in year one of the long-term plan. So they want it now, kind of thing. Our affordability is not just a product of how much money everybody wants, but also the time phasing. And if some of those things can be delayed by a year or two, then they may become affordable because they're not competing against as much in the outlying years of the long-term plan. So part of what officers are going to do when we prepare the draft budgets is time phase the projects and say, well, if you were to give it all up front in year one, you can't afford it. But if you were to spread it out, and unfortunately some people will have to wait, then you can afford to give more, so that we can put it into the budget without asking them to reapply year in, year out until they get it. That said, if their project doesn't get funding from the LTP and they do reapply, if it doesn't meet the significance and the materiality threshold, then there is no requirement to run an LTP amendment, and you would deal with it just like we do the other small scale changes to an annual plan, and add it in if it's something that you want to add back in. Does that make sense?
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thanks, David. I guess my question is just through a lot of your replies to questions, but it's noted here on the front page, page 33, around existing funding channels, and in particular around sport and recreation, which is that Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund. And I think you've kind of answered, that, I mean, obviously we've seen all these new, but this need, how we deal with it. A number of those, there's a number of projects in there that could be classed sport and recreation, and also in regard to the site visits we've been doing, there's actually some, there's some great stuff going on, and I guess my question is, you've kind of talked about maybe, is it community contracts being, looked at? But I would guess I'm asking that, I guess all of those funds, but also the Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund be looked at separate, as well. And I guess part of that, I mean, the community's contract's a fantastic fund. It's long term. It's got a high need. We elected members don't have a great line of sight over that to quite late in the process, whereas the sport and recreation facilities one, we, particularly with site visits, etc., we have quite a good line of sight. So my question is, I would like that to be considered as a fund that we also look to. Obviously, we cut it by half for rates decisions, really. Yeah, I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So, through your worship, getting a little far from the core purpose of the report, but I will answer your question, which is, the short answer is yes, officers are going to be putting forward some options for all of the community grant funds so that you can have the opportunity to make some decisions. That may include reversing some of the reductions that you made at the previous annual plan. But again, we want that decision to be made in the full context of all of the competing funding demands on council. As you know, the rates increase this annual plan just gone was high. And if we're not disciplined with our budgeting process, next year could be higher still. And to give you some indication, now that we've completed all of the point of entry business cases that we think we need to do, there is somewhere of the order of just over $500 million worth of requests for capital funding. So it's a significant capital program that I don't believe this council can afford to do all of it. So there needs to be some prioritisation calls made.
Yeah, no, I totally accept that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that. Councillor Michael move and Councillor Jenny second. Any comments on this item? Oh. Okay, sure.
My question is, given I wasn't here for all the discussion, am I able to vote on this item?
Have you read the report?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Councillor Rob.
Yeah, thank you.
Comments?
Yes, I certainly support this resolution, but I do want to comment that there's a need for more clarity to the community about how they can apply to this council, and there's also a need for clarity amongst people, members in our room as well, especially new councillors. And what I would ask management, David, is that a paper is pulled together that pulls together these various sources of council funding for community groups. At the moment, I know we can find it, but we'd have to go to the right page for the community grant, then we'd have to go to the right page for the waste levy, then we'd have to go to, and sports recreation, various things. If we could have a document that was pulled together that explains to us that if a member of the public says, I want to put an application in for some money, and we can say, well, we would suggest that you put it in this, and this is the close-off date, and these are the terms of reference that you'll need to satisfy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michael.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. I was very in favour of option 2 on this until the CE gave me a very cohesive response to my question, so thank you for that. The reason why I was in favour of option 2 is because decentralised decision making allows us to adapt to our environment in a quicker and more decisive way, especially when we're dealing with a complex thing called people. However, we're not quite ready. I think Aspirations and Projects Committee is something that I think is going to be the most important committee that we have, but we're not quite there yet to give that kind of decision making to the committee. But I don't want it to say that we'll never do that. I think we need to do that over time. So at the moment, I'm in favour of option A, one, to not give it for the moment. But I do want us to start thinking about the vision, how these items get into the agenda, how we structure that decision making, so that we can start moving to a point where we can adapt to our environment on a constant iterative basis instead of having to wait for long-term planning, which is slow and can be problematic. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Charlotte?
Thank you. Yeah, two things. Community contracts has been raised a few times throughout question time, and I was, when that came through the annual plan, I was a big advocate for actually increasing that budget, and I cannot understand why we would give delegation to this committee, and whilst we're lowering, or even just maintaining status quo on the community contracts grants. And secondly, I think that, one of the most frustrating things about local government is the pace at which things can be achieved. It's sort of our weakness, but it's also our strength. And I think there's a lot of, there's benefit to slowing down and standing back, looking at things holistically and seeing where things fit and making sure that you're following best practice. And in regards to this, I remember the item where this point came up, and I'm a huge advocate for saving our forest, but we need to make sure that we have the right people in the right place with the right amount of money going places. And I don't think that us as the Aspirations Committee can have all of that in front of us. So I am definitely in favour of option 1.
Right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Helen.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I will vote for 1. I've got no trouble with that, especially coming up. We're fairly close, relatively close to the LTP, and this is a new process, and so I am relaxed about that. But yes, I think the whole community grants, the grants to the community for whatever purpose that we may be dishing out is something that we constantly need to remove. And I must say I'm flip-flopping around a little bit around, there's been speciality grants which have followed through. You can take sport, you can take heritage, you can take the arts funds, and you can take the community grants funds, which are largely social, and they are in silos. So is that ideal? If you made it one great big fund, obviously some things have to go down a certain area, but I think the community grants fund is largely social. That goes to social requests and excludes a lot of other things, and then there's all our speciality funds. But I am aware that there are some community organisations and trusts who are looking for funding for incredibly worthy causes, and they don't fit under any of our headings. And yet, if they had an opportunity to present here, we'd all go, oh my gosh, if we want to keep that, we've got to do something. And they don't have an avenue at the moment. So the only way to give them an avenue is through this Aspirations Committee. At least they can come and talk to us, but some of them might not be capital projects. So how else do they talk to us? How else do they present to us? And so I think that the Community Aspirations Committee should and can look at everything, that it's just not capital projects. But there will, so I'd like to see that expanded, and then you look at, well, if we're going to have one bigger fund, yes, you'd have to expand what, say, community grants are there for. Is it just social enterprises, or is it other stuff? So there's a lot of work to do there. And the bigger projects definitely should always go through the LTP, like the big chunky things, and that's absolutely appropriate. But where it's smaller amounts of money, that's where I think it would be nice to be more nimble, and that would be where it would be great to have a fund that, just like community grants, that's available to give out. So yeah, a bit of work to do yet. Thank you.
Great, I'll give you the right reply.
Yeah, just
and
a very...
I've just, before you do, I'm just
you go
a
next,
couple of comments. And so yesterday in my message, I talked about the devolution don't know what the phrase is, of autonomy and trust, I guess, from central government to local government, then into the community. And I think, if we talk about what localism is, which we talk a lot about, I think community-led projects are a way of the future, where we empower our community to lead the way into community initiatives to get things done, and we partner with them, because we're looking for central government to give us a bit more, or trust us a bit more, and so therefore we should trust our community to get on with things as well, and empower them. So I'm a big fan of that. And then we talked about now to mention people's names here. Councillor Charlotte, anyway. Great comment from my colleague to the right over there. Not sure what the rules are, but I guess it's this thing called pace versus progress. We want to move at pace, but the progress in local government does tend to be a bit slower than usual, but for good reason. We need to be transparent, and we need to go through a good process, and we don't want to be seen as gung-ho. So it is that, but also I think to my other colleague over to the left there, about funding and grants and so on and the system, how often, how frequent are they? And from my sense at the moment, they are frequent enough for community-led projects to find grants and funds to get things done. So I'll be supporting option 1 as well. So right of reply, Councillor Michael.
You said 80% of what I was going to say, Mayor Andrew, so thank you for that. And it was your idea to begin with, so I think it's a very good point that you were to raise that. I want one small little add-on though, is I don't like the idea that we are starting to put together community contracts, waste levy, events funding, heritage restoration, sports recreation with aspirations and projects. The original vision that you had, Mayor Andrew, and that the chair was moving forward with, is this is aspirations and projects. It's not community grant funding. It's not can I have 5K to do this little wee project. It is aspirations, forward thinking, capital projects, things that we would have done ourselves, but you're going to do it cheaper and better. Love it. Thank you. So I think that's probably where the chair and the executives need to work on to really capitalise on the two of yours vision on aspirations and projects. So thank you for that.
All right, great. Thank you. So no more comments. So I'll put the motion on the screen that the council does not provide financial delegations to the Aspirations and Projects Committee, and B, notes that all funding requests from community groups to the Aspirations and Projects Committee will be considered through the 2024-2034 long-term plan. So all those in favour? Right. Against? Motion is carried. Right, the next item is item 8.4, building line restriction removal. This item is that the council revokes the building line restriction in respect of all properties adjacent to Hattrick Street West and 10 properties adjoining Springvale Road. So we've got Damien Wood and Rob Goldsbury just makes a final last minute burst into the room. All right, over to you, gentlemen.
I'll take the paper as read and just point to a couple of the highlights. So there's two sites involved, Hattrick Street and Springvale Road. Both of them are aged historical decisions made by previous councils. Hattrick Street in the 1960s and Springvale Road in the 1950s. The effect of the restrictions is it limits buildings within a certain distance of the road, and in both situations this is limiting development of properties within that area. This we present two options: revocation of the building line restriction for both locations, or option 2 being the status quo where we take no action. I think the report outlines the technical information supporting the recommendation, preferred option 1, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Great, thank you. Councillor Charlie, then Councillor Rob.
Thanks, Damon. There must be a restriction. Surely they can't just build right against the road. Is that, have I missed that point somewhere?
The restriction sets quite a setback from the road, in some cases 15 metres from the centre line, so it's not removing any restrictions that apply under current rules of the district plan. These are specific restrictions that were put in place to further setback properties from those road edge. In both instances it was due to potential for future road widening, and in both locations that opportunity no longer exists or has been removed by other properties having already encroached on that.
Councillor Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Damien. Are there any potential adverse effects for properties by making this change? For instance, if you have a property there and your neighbour is then allowed to build much further forward, has that got an possible adverse effect? And do you need to consult with the business, with the property owners on this?
So the inquiry has already come from a number of property owners that have asked for it to be removed. That's why the paper's been brought to council. There's no immediate or perceived risks involved in doing so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, over to David Langford.
Yep. Through you, Worship, maybe just to help clarify a little bit in support of Damien here, the building line restriction is an additional control over and above what's in the district plan. It was put there to protect council's interests for a potential future road widening project. The roading team are now saying it's superfluous, we're not going to widen the road, so let's remove the restriction and then everyone can go back to operating under the standard district plan. So in that regard, we would consider it low risk. The community's asked for it because the current additional control is stifling development. We're happy to recommend its removal as being a low risk because the original purpose for it doesn't exist anymore.
Thank you. Councillor Jenny.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. My question is probably, I don't know whether it's aimed at CE or who, but I am aware of one of these activities, and the concerns around the building line restriction has been going on for quite a number of months, and I believe that maybe the project isn't going to go ahead now because of the time this has taken. So my question is, this seemed like quite a simple thing, and something from the past that needed to be rectified. Why do these things have to take so long, to the extent where a developer walks away from a project? It's a pretty broad question, but you know, the simpler things, I think, could they come here quicker? It's unusual that these things come to us anyway, because you know it's an anomaly. But you get my point.
Through your worship, I do get your point. Rather than speaking on the fly to it, because it is outside of the actual decision to be made, I think maybe that's something we ought to take offline rather than asking me to make commentary on our timeliness and performance right now in a live meeting. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Michael.
Got to reframe my question now. Is there any legal reason that decisions like this can be made by officers without having to come to council?
At the moment, yes. We are currently reviewing the delegations register. these things come up so rarely because, as you can see, they're historical. That our current delegations register does not contain a delegation down to officers to release these, and particularly the one in Hattrick Street, well, actually both of them, were made by what's called special order, which then requires the council to unspecial order it. So that's why these are both had to come to the council and not be able to be done by officers.
Okay, so just to clarify, I can't raise a motion right now for all future delegations for it to go to the officers, because there may be situations where it needs council.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Peter.
Yeah, quick question and a follow-up of the last two questions. How many, or is there any more of these, line of things out there that are waiting to be historically now removed?
Through your worship, we can't answer that with any certainty without going and doing a bit of research on it. It's outside of the decision being asked for you in the report. We can look into it, but you're probably looking at something more like a substantive district plan review to see if we can find any more of these and then deal with them in an omnibus kind of way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So I no further questions. So I'm going to move that that the council revokes the building line restriction in respect to all properties adjacent to Hattrick Street West and 10 properties adjoining Springvale Road. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Philippa. Oh, sorry. She put a hand up. Great. Any comments? It's probably we've got one. Yeah, it's probably one of those ones where there's more clarification than comments. But Councillor Michael.
Jenny was first.
Oh, Jenny.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You go.
You like to go after me, right? So my comment is more holistic. I'll try and keep to the report. This is obvious. We need to keep and undo this. My concern is what my friend to my left said, is how many more are there? How do we make a more holistic motion that, and I've been thinking of alternative motions for the last 5 minutes, and I can't think of one. But if we could take an action to move forward to think about when we make decisions in this chamber, when do they undo automatically from a timely manner when the data no longer shows it to be accurate? So for instance, at some stage this would have been made that we were not going to extend the road, so it should have automatically been taken off. So I guess my comment here is that we need to put an action in place to look at how can we holistically deal with decisions that we've made that are no longer valid. And I'm going to point of order myself here and say that that is not on this agenda item 8.4. And yeah, I agree, Michael. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Jenny.
Promise I won't talk to myself. Yeah, let's get sensible. Look, I appreciate that these things are lurking there in the plan, and they will come up when somebody wants to do a development or make some change, and that's when they become apparent. And to go back and find them all is probably a bit of a task. I think my strong suggestion is that when these things do come up, that they're acted on quite quickly, because they are affecting people's decision making, and when they linger on for month after month after month after month, people's decisions change, and then we miss out on opportunities. So where it's quite simple, I just think we should act on it a little quicker. Thank you.
Councillor Rob.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I think it should be remembered that these building lines exist on several roads around the city, and that they're put there for good intentions. And I wouldn't like to see a blanket rule saying we're going to remove building lines around the city, because there are some that are very important, like I believe Somme Parade has a building line there, and that's slowly resulting in the widening of Somme Parade as properties are redeveloped. It takes probably 50 years, but the line is there, and I think there are lines in place that are serving good purposes.
Great, thank you. Yeah, look, I think just to reinforce the point here is that for any items like this, we want to be a council that moves quickly so that we don't impede progress and development across our district, urban and rural. So great. So thank you for bringing this item. So no further comments. So I'll put the motion on the screen that the council revokes the building line restriction in respect to all properties adjacent to Hattrick Street West and 10 properties adjoining Springvale Road. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. I just need a clarification. Councillor Ross, were you for that or did you abstain? Oh, right, okay, I just got asked the question. Okay, great, thank you. No, that's right. So item 8.5, Whanganui District Council Organisation Strategy. I assume we'll pass this over to our Chief Executive.
Through your worship, this report just outlines a new strategy that the senior management team has put into place for how we're going to lead the improvement and development of the organisation's capability. On the first page of the report, you'll note the diagram that sets out the business excellence model that we're using to guide the strategy. This focuses on making sure we have a set of 5 key enablers in place: good, strong leadership and culture in the organisation, people, a guiding strategy, partners and resources in place, and then products, processes and services that our customers need from us. The theory being that if you focus on building and strengthening the enablers, then they deliver you results against people, customer, society and business. And that would be results in terms of having good outcomes for our staff, good outcomes for our community in terms of them as customers and receivers of our services. Society would be the broader outcomes and impact on the well-being of our community and the environment. And then business results is obviously from an organisational point of view, delivering in accordance with plans, policies, budgets and financial debt limits, those kind of things. The strategy sets out some of the strategic priorities that the leadership team are going to be focusing on, and those are set out under paragraph 5 of the report, but just to read them out for the benefit of anybody listening online. Defining our leadership expectations so that we have high quality leadership capability within the organisation and a real strong culture of accountability. Developing our people and performance frameworks so that we can set clear goals and expectations of our people, measure their performance, reward the successes and course correct when we don't deliver according to our plans. Implementing a diversity, equity and inclusion program. Developing our health and safety and well-being capabilities, creating the new vision for Whanganui so that we've got a clear service delivery offering for our community that's meeting the well-being needs of the district, maintaining a reforms response plan so that we remain adaptive to a rapidly changing environment, particularly now that we've gone past the election and some of those reforms may get amended or repealed. Bolstering our asset management capability. As an organisation that owns over $1 billion worth of built assets, it's critical that we're following best practice and making sure we optimise those assets and the investment you make into them. Making sure that we have strong partner and stakeholder management practices, again aligned with ISO best practice. Strengthening our procurement and supply chain leadership capabilities. Implementing the better business case process for our capital projects, and then establishing a strategy management office so that we can maintain oversight and good reporting capability across our strategies and our work program delivery, and then taking a little bit more of a commercial approach to developing business development plans where we can create non-rates revenue or do more without raising rates through other sources of income. And the early opportunity being looking at our venues and events function. Throughout all of the organisation strategy, there's a pervading focus on rates affordability. Whatever we do, we need to make sure that our community can afford to pay for it. And there are 6 main ways that we can have an influence on our rates, and those are set out under paragraph 6. And again, I'll read them out quickly. They are looking for opportunities to increase our non-rates revenue, and we've set a goal of finding an additional $800,000 of revenue that we can start including in our budgets going forward as part of the long-term plan. Securing alternative funding for particularly some of our capital projects, and again we've set a goal of trying to find $8 million of alternative funding for projects that will only proceed if we secure the funding for year 1 of the long-term plan. A 2% efficiency saving in this financial year, that would be equivalent to a $1.5 million cash saving once adjusted for inflation. And then on an ongoing basis, implementing an investor save program where we have a small budget that we can use to deliver organisational improvements, pay for software, those kind of things that enable ongoing larger savings with an ongoing target of 1% per annum once inflation adjusted. Then we're also looking at what we can do in the space of service level reductions. These will be options that we present to council to consider, because reducing service levels is not something that officers have delegations for. Likewise, identifying $16 million of assets that could be sold to repay debt and providing council with options, because again, outside of officers' delegations to make those decisions. I've put this item on the agenda because whilst it's an internal strategy, I think it's in the public interest that they know and have confidence that there is disciplined management and leadership going on within the council, and that there is visibility on what we need to do to improve the performance of the organisation so that we can be responsive and timely and agile and all of the things that you're asking us to do, but also with some discipline around being accountable for the performance of the organisation and managing our budgets in a prudent way that makes sure that they remain affordable. I'm conscious I've used the word discipline a lot, and I'm reminded of the saying, there's 2 types of pain. You can either choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So this is the leadership of the organisation choosing to be disciplined and do the hard work to make sure that we are a high-performing organisation. We look after our people, our community, and keep our rates affordable. Happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you, David. Councillor Peter.
Yes, thank you, David. Great report. I'm fully in support of the organisational strategy, but we are also in the middle of redefining our vision and purpose on the 10-year plan. How will that affect, say, like on the 3rd thing, mission statement, and our values? Will they change with the new vision?
Through your worship, no, I don't think they will change. This is about making the council a high-performing, well-functioning organisation so that we can deliver the vision for the community. So there's a degree of independence in terms of no matter what the vision is, some of these foundation things, having a disciplined business case process, for example, is a consistent requirement that this organisation needs no matter what the vision is. So I don't think those will change. We've looked at our value set and we think that they are fit for purpose both now and for the foreseeable future. So no need to change those either. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Kate.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, David. I've got a couple of questions. The first question relates to how confident are you and how will you assure yourself that everyone in this organisation can see themselves in this strategy? That's my first question. And my second question is in two parts. You've said at paragraph 7 that there will be regular reporting. So can you talk to us about the regular reporting internally, and also your thinking around regular reporting to governance?
So, through you, Worship, first of all, we've already launched the new strategy with our staff. We've held all of staff meetings so that the executive leadership team can explain the strategy, and we've made ourselves available to answer questions. We've also published the strategy on our internal intranet site and made it freely available to our staff so that they can see it. We have committed to having quarterly all of staff meetings so that we can maintain focus on the strategy, make sure that its importance is acknowledged by the fact that we talk about it on a regular basis, and we deliberately put timelines for each of the strategic priorities into the strategy so that we could report against them, tell our people about the progress we're making, and again make ourselves accountable for the progress that we do or don't deliver. The early feedback that we've had from some of our staff is that something like this is long overdue, and it's clearly resonating with them and has been well received. But also part of what we're looking to do through our leadership is to delegate responsibility and accountability and empowerment so that people can participate in delivering the strategy, and they can see how their day-to-day work has some connection towards the mission that we're on in terms of improving the performance of the organisation. One of the early things we've done is put in place, we've called it a brainwaves suggestions process, so that staff can put forward their ideas for improvement that align with the strategic priorities or with potential rates affordability initiatives, so that they can be part of defining the solutions and help us, and it doesn't become a purely top-down leadership-driven approach, but also a grassroots way of feeding things up. So yeah, through those reporting mechanisms, we'll be measuring our staff engagement through regular engagement surveys to make sure that the initiatives that we're putting in place through the strategic priorities are having the desired impact. If they're not, we'll course correct, and we propose some metrics at the back, particularly around the people side of things, that we'll use as those smoke signals to tell us whether we're heading in the right track and having the impact we expected or not.
Thank you.
That was a very long answer, sorry.
No, that's fine. So specifically in terms of council, you would report against this to council?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, happy to report against it. Some of it will require reporting anyway by its nature. For example, the vision for Whanganui has to come to council because you'll be the final sign-off of that. Other things, for example, if we want to improve our asset management capability, we need a new asset management tool to do that. We'll require budget to enable that process to go ahead, so that'll come to you through the LTP budgeting process. But overall, periodic reports back so that you can see collective progress against the full strategy is something that we can do.
Thank you.
Councillor Robb.
Thank you. Yes, this is a really impressive document, David, and it's fantastic to see this affordable rates focus here. I wanted to ask you some questions about that. In the past, we've had proposed efficiencies, even front page stories in the Chronicle where $3 million of savings are going to occur before your time. And when you get to the end of the year and look at the annual report, it wasn't quite there. And so I'm particularly interested in these 6 focus areas that you have put here and how you're going to report against them. I know Councillor Kate asked a question there, but will we be getting a report against each of those 6 focus areas? And what will be the baseline that you'll start off with? Because it's difficult to talk about the savings if you haven't got a baseline.
So, through your worship, the baseline piece is the current annual plan. That's our established benchmark to refer back to. Obviously, each year there are the cost increases due to inflation, so we would be expecting to deliver an efficiency saving of effectively inflation minus 1%, and that would be how we would be setting our budgets. In terms of actual reporting, yes, we would be bringing reports back against each of the initiatives where the 6 where appropriate. Obviously, reducing levels of service, selling assets, those are LTP decisions rather than ongoing reports from officers. But the other ones, the ongoing Investor Save program, yes, we should be telling you what we spent that seed funding on and what savings it delivered, and you should be judging the performance based on the fact that we saved more money than we spent, and it delivered an overall 1% net reduction in our operating cost. Some of the things that we've already started to look at are things like the utilisation of our fleet of vehicles, and the fact that if we centralise them into a single pool of vehicles, we could get better utilisation from what we've already got, and probably reduce the size of the fleet by several vehicles, so that we can avoid the operating cost of them and then also the replacement cost when they get to the end of their life, and reduce the overall cost of running our fleet. It's those kind of initiatives that we want to be putting forward. My understanding is there's a little bit of skepticism about some of the past approaches to efficiency savings, because they've actually just been resource cuts and making our staff work harder rather than finding actual genuine efficiencies by improving our workflows or putting better tools in place so that we can deliver the same outcome with less effort. Other opportunities we may have is looking at the efficiency of our power consuming equipment, heaters in buildings, the swimming pool pumps and heaters, because if we can buy replacement equipment that's more power efficient, we can cut the cost of our electricity bill, which already runs into millions of dollars. So huge opportunity to be more energy efficient and deliver a financial saving as well. And that doesn't impact on our staff at all, and they still carry on doing their job on a day-to-day basis without having additional pressure put onto them.
Thank you.
Right. So no further questions. Okay. Councillor Kate. Councillor Jenny. Right. Comments then. Councillor Kate.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I admire your passion and commitment, and for nailing your colours to the mast in terms of what your plan is. I think that's a brave thing to do, and I look forward to progress against your plan, because I have no doubt that there will be progress and improvement. Thank you.
Councillor Michael.
Yeah, very good, very good. I really enjoy the end-to-end value creation and alignment piece. I think that's probably gone a little bit unnoticed until people probably get and see it, but I can see it because I've seen this in production, and it's really good. So thank you for that. I obviously really like keep rates low. That's really cool. I will say though, a KPI around family income would be nice, so that we say that we're going to say to people, this is the maximum we're going to have. Maybe no more than family income percentage increases. That would be nice. And great use of lagging versus leading indicators. I think that's very transformational, David, because I'm still very surprised how a lot of governments use lagging indicators when we know that they're only good for ego purposes, not actually getting things done. So great use of that. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for that, David. Good job.
Right. Councillor Rob.
Thank you. Well, first of all, congratulations, David, for bringing up putting a document like this before us. I mean, I haven't seen it written down like this in the time I've been on council, where there's targets set, focus areas set, goals are set, and now it's up to elected members to support you all the way through this process to make sure that you can achieve this. And I acknowledge that it won't be the chief executive that will let us down in achieving these targets. It'll be a multitude of minds that want something different. And that's life, unfortunately. I mean, that's what'll happen. But what we've got the responsibility of is to get behind the chief executive as much as we possibly can and make sure that these targets are achieved. Thank you.
Councillor Charlotte.
Thank you. This is fantastic and holistic, and I really appreciate it. And one thing I do want to say is culture change is one of the hardest things to successfully implement in any business or organisation, and this is obviously a really complex one. So I really appreciate the vision here and the follow through. With the transition period, any transition period is always quite uncomfortable, and I can appreciate that it probably will be a little bit of an uncomfortable time for some within the organisation. But if we can successfully land an organisation with a healthy culture is one that can thrive. So let's do this. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Jenny.
Thank you. Yes, I think if we're able to achieve what's in this plan, I think our community will be the winners. So I want to thank you, David, for your insight and your ability to be able to bring this together with the help of your team. But it's, I know how much of it is your work. I very, very much look forward to seeing it implemented and seeing the results. That's the exciting part. I love the structure of it and the fact that within that structure there can actually be flexibility and the ability to change and manoeuvre as circumstances change, because if there's nothing more certain at the moment is that things aren't certain. So I really do thank you, and I look forward to seeing how this rolls out. You have our full support. Thank you.
Councillor Peter.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair. I won't heap any more praise on David because we'll never get him out of the chamber. So, and I will support this because I see lean principles and practices all the way through it. So, thank you very much.
All right. So, just comment from me. So, I've seen this document in its infancy right from the start, and David shared it with me, and I really applaud the progress that it's made and adapting and listening to us, listening to the people in the organisation, but also being malleable to make this into a document that is going to be, I think, game changing. And if I've been across many councils and local government organisations, and I haven't seen anything as so comprehensive and quality as this. So I'm going to heap a bit of praise on David again and say well done, David, for that. I kind of divide this document up into two parts. The first part is really addressing the affordable rates aspect, and a 6-point plan to address that, I think, is a really a powerful way of providing a message to our community as well. It's not just one blanket statement. It's divided up into a 6-point plan, and to be able to communicate that to our community is that will be, I think, very helpful, because the more I'm still getting letters and emails and texts and messages and so on about the rates. They're still going on. And I've just got one yesterday from someone who was still very angry and doesn't understand why we have such a high rates environment, but it's a nationwide issue. And so I think this is something that we need to sit across from the other side and look at how council are communicating this, and I think we've done a good job, but how can we do it better? And I think this plan, plus also the general message around rates, is something that's really important to take to our community continually to help them understand it, because it's complex. Actually, if you're sitting in a 3-bedroom house with a young family in the middle of Whanganui somewhere, it's very hard to, and you're leading a busy life for us, for them to understand how councils work. So applaud that, and we know that nationwide there's a funding and finance issue for councils, and we're reliant on rates, and it's just it doesn't work. So it's part of the Future for Local Government review to look into that, and but it's not going to be an overnight job. The second part of this is the actual strategy document itself, and I've quoted before Winston Churchill, no matter how beautiful the strategy, occasionally you should look at the results. And here we have a beautiful strategy, and I do back our Chief Executive and his team to deliver results on this piece of paper. And I've seen many flash strategies in my time, and but ultimately it's about the delivery of them. And so I think we're right behind you, David, and we will back you to do that. And so a high-performing council that's focused on productivity, delivery and efficiency helps all of us, helps this council, but also helps our community to ultimately live the best life they can, and for Whanganui to be the greatest place to live on earth. I think that the other part of this that is not addressed in here that's worth mentioning and it's timely, is our CCO review that's underway as well, which will create further revenue and potentially efficiency gains for us as well. So whilst that's not mentioned here, I think that's critical into what the future of our district looks like, and what we focus on, and also how we generate non-rates income. So thank you, David, and look forward to seeing this progress. So there are no further comments. All those, so I'll put the motion on the screen, sorry, a bit fast there, that the council receive the report, Whanganui District Council Organisational Strategy. All those in favour? Against? Yeah. Motion is carried. Yeah. Looks like we need to see strong hands, you know. That's all good. All right, great. Look, the next item is item 9, which is the motion to exclude the public.
So if you just want to read out the top of that.
Okay, that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of the meeting, namely items listed in the table below. That Dwayne Emeny be permitted to remain at this meeting after the public has been excluded because of his knowledge of Air Chathams. This knowledge, which will be of assistance in relation to the matters to be discussed, is relevant to those matters because he is the Chief Operating Officer for Air Chathams. And a mover, Councillor Kate. Seconder, Councillor Charlie. Can you just put your... Councillor Philippa.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I hadn't seen that. Just for clarification, Mr. Emery would be able to present, I guess, answer questions, but in regard to decision making, my expectations would be that he wouldn't be part in the room when we make it. We would have an opportunity to discuss and make our decision with the
I'll pass over to David, but I assume that he'll be here to clarify questions and
just
questions
want to
of
get clarity.
clarification.
Sometimes it just can get a bit messy if we don't get that very
through
clear.
your worship, just to clarify, Councillor Phillip is correct. We've got Dwayne here to say Sarah will introduce the report. Dwayne will then have the opportunity to speak to you, and then you can question him. Then we'll ask him to leave. Then you can have elected members only time to debate it and make your decision without him in the room.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So look, we're going to just have a quick break because our presenter is not here. The Chathams is late. No, not, he's on his way.
He's on his way.
He's on his way.
Can we
No.
we'll just put the motion?
I need to put the motion. All those in favour? Against? No, motion's carried. Okay, we're just going to have a quick break until our presenter turns